The twin sons of Archon 7 beat down on the endless desert, turning the sand into a shimmering sea of gold. Mia adjusted her dusty goggles and tightened the straps of her scavenged backpack. At 28, she'd spent half her life picking through the bones of dead worlds, searching for tech or relics to sell. Earth was far away, a fading memory of green fields and blue skies. Out here, survival meant being clever, fast, and a little reckless, qualities Mia had in spades. She trudged toward the ruins ahead, a crumbling maze of towers and arches half buried in the dunes. Her scanner beeped faintly, picking up traces of alien metal. "Jackpot," she muttered, her voice rough from the dry air. The structure loomed closer, its walls carved with strange symbols that glowed faintly under the sunlight. Mia didn't care much for history didn't pay, but something about this place felt alive, like it was watching her. Inside, the air was cool and still. Her boots echoed on the cracked stone floor as she swept her flashlight across the chamber. Piles of shattered machines littered the space, their purpose long forgotten. Then, in the center, she saw it, a statue. It was a girl or something like one, carved from a smooth, silvery stone that shimmered like liquid. She stood tall, arms crossed over her chest, her face calm but fierce. Mia stepped closer, her curiosity tugging at her like a magnet. "Who were you?" she whispered, reaching out. Her fingers brushed the statue's arm, and the stone felt warm, too warm for something lifeless. A crack split the silence, sharp and sudden. Mia yanked her hand back as fractures spiderwebbed across the statue's surface. The glow intensified, and chunks of stone fell away, revealing pale blue skin beneath. The figure gasped, stumbling forward, and Mia caught her before she hit the ground. The alien girl's eyes fluttered open, bright and golden, like tiny suns. She stared at Mia, confusion giving way to recognition. "You freed me," she said, her voice soft but clear, speaking in a language Mia's translator earpiece barely understood. Mia blinked, heart racing. Yeah, I guess I did. Name's Mia. You got one?" "Lila," the girl replied, steadying herself. She was taller than Mia, her blue skin shimmering faintly, her hair a cascade of white threads that moved like silk. She wore no clothes, just the remnants of stone clinging to her like a second skin. Mia shrugged off her jacket and handed it over. "Here, cover up. We're not exactly in a museum anymore." Lila took the jacket, wrapping it around herself. "Thank you. I've been still for a long time." Before Mia could ask what that meant, a low hum filled the chamber. Red lights blinked to life along the walls, and metallic shapes, drones, unfolded from hidden panels. Their lenses locked onto the pair, energy weapons charging with a whine. "Great. Security's awake," Mia groaned, grabbing Lila's arm. "Can you run?" Lila nodded, her legs shaky but firming with each step. They bolted for the exit as the drones opened fire, bolts of light scorching the stone where they'd stood. Mia's mind raced, she'd seen worse odds, but not with a stranger who'd just been a statue 5 minutes ago. They ducked behind a fallen pillar, the drones buzzing closer. Mia rummaged through her pack, pulling out a small EMP grenade she'd salvaged from a crashed freighter. "Hope this works," she said, tossing it into the air. The pulse fried the drones mid-flight, sending them crashing in a shower of sparks. Lila stared, wide-eyed. "What was that?" "Human trick," Mia grinned. "Stick with me, and you'll see more." They ran deeper into the ruins, the hum of more drones echoing behind them. Lila's strength seemed to grow as they moved, her steps surer, her breath steadier. Mia couldn't help but wonder, what had she unleashed? And why did it feel like the start of something bigger? As they reached a shadowed hallway, Lila stopped, her golden eyes scanning the walls. "This place, it's mine. My people built it." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Your people? What happened to them?" Lila's face darkened. They're gone. Betrayed. I was their guardian, until I was trapped. She touched the wall, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a glowing crystal embedded in the stone. Mia's scanner went wild. That's no ordinary rock, she said, stepping closer. Lila pulled her back. It's dangerous. It's why I was frozen. Before Mia could press for answers, the ground shook. Dust rained from the ceiling as a distant roar echoed through the ruins. Something big was coming, and it wasn't friendly. Guess we've got company, Mia said, pulling a blaster from her belt. You ready for round 2? Lila nodded, a flicker of determination in her eyes. Whatever this crystal was, whatever Lila had been guarding, Mia knew one thing: she wasn't leaving without answers, or a fight. The roar grew louder, shaking the ancient walls of the ruins as Mia and Lila stood in the shadowed hallway. Dust swirled around them, the air thick with the smell of sand and old metal. Mia gripped her blaster tighter, her eyes darting to the glowing crystal Lila had revealed in the wall. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat, casting a soft light across Lila's blue skin. Whatever was coming, it was tied to that thing, and Mia wasn't about to let it catch them off guard. We need to move, Mia said, her voice steady despite the tremor in the floor. Lila nodded, her golden eyes narrowing as she scanned the hallway. This way, she said, pointing to a narrow passage branching off to the right. Her fingers brushed the wall again, and another hidden panel slid open, revealing a tunnel lined with faintly glowing stones. Mia didn't hesitate, she trusted Lila's instincts, even if she didn't fully understand them yet. They slipped into the tunnel, the sounds of the approaching threat muffled behind them. The passage was tight, forcing Mia to duck under low-hanging beams while Lila moved with an eerie grace, her white hair trailing like a comet's tail. You said this place is yours, Mia called over her shoulder. What's it hiding? And what's that crystal? Lila's voice came soft but firm. It's called the Shard of Eternity. My people made it long ago, a tool to protect, to create. But it's dangerous in the wrong hands. She paused, her breath catching. I was its guardian. When my people were betrayed, I tried to keep it safe. They turned me to stone to stop me. Mia glanced back, frowning. Betrayed by who? Lila's face tightened, her golden eyes clouding with memory. A faction within our own kind. They wanted the shard's power for themselves, to control, not to protect. They allied with outsiders, sold us out. I was the last one standing. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, its ceiling cracked and letting slivers of sunlight pierce the gloom. In the center stood a pedestal, empty except for faint scorch marks where something had once rested. Mia's scanner beeped again, picking up residual energy. Let me guess, she said, stepping closer. The shard was here before they took it. Lila nodded, her hands clenching into fists. They couldn't use it without me. My energy, my connection to it, they needed that to unlock its full strength. Freezing me was their way of keeping it dormant. Mia raised an eyebrow. And now that you're awake, Lila met her gaze. It's waking too. Somewhere out there, they know I'm free. Before Mia could respond, a sharp clank echoed through the chamber. She spun around, blaster raised, as a swarm of small, spider-like drones scuttled from the shadows. Their red eyes glowed, and tiny blades whirred at their tips. More security, Mia muttered. This place really doesn't like visitors. Lila stepped forward, her voice rising in a strange, melodic chant. The air around her shimmered, and the drones froze mid-step, their lights flickering. Mia stared, impressed. What was that? Lila smiled faintly. A trick of my people. I can disrupt their energy for a moment. But it won't last. Good enough for me, Mia said, kicking one of the drones aside. She rummaged through her pack again, pulling out a coil of wire and a small power cell. Let's give them something to chase. She rigged the cell to the wire, creating a crude decoy that sparked and buzzed like a living thing. Tossing it into the tunnel behind them, she grabbed Lila's arm. "Run!" The drones reactivated just as the decoy flared to life, drawing their attention. Mia and Lila sprinted across the chamber, ducking into another passage as the drones swarmed the bait. Mia's heart pounded, but she couldn't help grinning. Outsmarting machines was her specialty. Years of scavenging had taught her how to turn junk into survival. They stopped to catch their breath in a smaller room, its walls covered in faded carvings. Lila traced one with her fingers, a scene of tall, blue-skinned figures holding the shard aloft, light pouring from it. "This was us," she said quietly. "Before everything fell apart. The shard could build cities, heal wounds, even shift the stars if we needed it to. But it takes a guardian to guide it." Mia leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from her brow. "Sounds like a big responsibility. Why you?" Lila's eyes softened. "I was born with a spark, something rare among my kind. It let me bond with the shard, control it. That's why they couldn't just kill me." Mia nodded, piecing it together. "So they froze you, took the shard, and left you here like a trophy. But now you're back, and they're probably not happy about it." Lila's lips curved into a small, determined smile. "They underestimated humans. Your touch broke their trap. That's something they never planned for." Mia laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Yeah, we're good at messing up plans. Comes with the territory." She pushed off the wall, scanning the room. "If the shard's out there, we need to find it before they do something stupid with it. Any ideas where to start?" Lila knelt by the carvings, her fingers brushing a symbol that looked like a spiraling star. "There's a map here," she said. "Hidden in the art. My people loved secrets." She pressed the symbol, and the floor rumbled. A section of stone slid away, revealing a holographic display, faint, flickering, but alive. It showed Archon 7, with a blinking dot far to the north. "That's a long hike," Mia said, eyeing the distance. "And I'm guessing it's not a friendly neighborhood." Lila stood, her expression hardening. "No. But if they've activated the shard, we'll feel it. The air will change, the ground will tremble. We'll know." As if on cue, a deep vibration pulsed through the ruins, strong enough to knock Mia off balance. She caught herself, cursing under her breath. "Like that?" Lila's eyes widened. "Yes. They're trying to use it. We don't have much time." Mia adjusted her pack, her mind racing. She wasn't a soldier or a hero, just a scavenger who'd stumbled into something massive. But the fire in Lila's eyes, the way she trusted Mia to keep going, it lit something in her too. "Then we move fast," she said. "I've got a hoverbike stashed outside. Not pretty, but it'll get us there." Lila followed her as they backtracked through the ruins, the vibrations growing stronger. The drones were gone, distracted by Mia's decoy, but the air felt heavier now, charged with an energy Mia couldn't name. They burst out into the desert sun, where Mia's bike, a patched-together mess of metal and wires, waited under a tarp. She kicked it to life, the engine sputtering before roaring. "Hop on," she said, patting the seat behind her. Lila climbed aboard, her arms wrapping around Mia's waist. The contact sent a jolt through Mia, not just the thrill of the ride, but something deeper, like a thread tying them together. The bike shot across the dunes, sand spraying behind them. Mia's goggles shielded her eyes as she pushed the machine to its limit, the horizon blurring. Lila leaned close, her voice cutting through the wind. "You're not like the others I've seen. Humans, I mean. You don't give up." Mia grinned, keeping her eyes on the path. "Never had the luxury. Out here, you adapt or you die." She didn't say the rest, that Lila's faith in her, a stranger from a lost world, made giving up impossible. They were in this together now, whether they liked it or not. The dot on the map loomed closer, a jagged mountain range piercing the sky. The vibrations were constant now, a low hum that set Mia's teeth on edge. Whatever was happening, it was big, and it was waiting for them. She tightened her grip on the handlebars, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about finding out what they could do, what she could do, when the odds were stacked against them. As they neared the mountains, a shadow passed overhead, a sleek, black ship cutting through the clouds. Mia slowed the bike, squinting up at it. "That's no scavenger rig," she said. Lila's grip tightened. "It's them. The ones who took the shard." Mia killed the engine, pulling the bike behind a boulder. "Then we've got a fight on our hands," she said, checking her blaster. Lila's eyes gleamed with a fierce light. "Good. I've waited centuries for this." The ship descended, kicking up a storm of sand. Mia didn't know what was coming, but she knew one thing: she and Lila were ready. Together, they'd face it, and maybe, just maybe, turn the tide. The black ship hovered above the desert, its engines humming like a swarm of angry wasps. Sand whipped around Mia and Lila as they crouched behind the boulder, the hoverbike hidden beneath a tarp. Mia peeked out, her goggles fogged with dust, and counted the figures emerging from the ship's ramp. 6 of them, tall, armored aliens with jagged spikes along their shoulders and glowing red visors. They moved with purpose, carrying weapons that crackled with energy. "Those don't look friendly," Mia whispered, her hand tightening on her blaster. Lila's golden eyes narrowed, her blue skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. "They're Kren, warriors from a rival clan. They must have the shard." Her voice carried a weight of old anger, like a storm brewing beneath her calm. Mia nodded, her mind racing. She'd faced tough odds before, pirates, drones, even a sandstorm that nearly buried her alive, but this felt different. Bigger. "Any chance they'll just hand it over if we ask nicely?" she said, half joking. Lila's lips twitched, almost a smile. "No. They'd sooner burn this planet to ash than lose it." The Kren spread out, scanning the dunes with handheld devices. One barked orders in a guttural language Mia's translator couldn't catch, and the ground trembled again, stronger this time. A faint glow pulsed from the mountains ahead, where the map had led them. "They're activating it," Lila said, her voice urgent. "We can't let them finish." Mia checked her pack, blaster, a few EMP grenades, and a makeshift smoke bomb she'd rigged from spare parts. Not much, but it'd have to do. "All right," she said, pulling Lila close. "We hit them fast, use the ruins against them. You know this place, any traps we can turn on?" Lila's eyes lit up, catching Mia's plan. "Yes. There's an old defense grid near the mountain entrance. If we get there, I can wake it up." Mia grinned, adrenaline pumping. "Then we've got a shot. Let's move." They slipped from behind the boulder, keeping low as they darted across the sand. The Kren were focused on the mountains, their backs turned, giving Mia and Lila a narrow window. The hoverbike would have been faster, but the noise would have given them away. Mia's boots sank into the dunes, her breath sharp in her chest, but she kept going. Lila matched her pace, her strength growing with every step, like the centuries in stone were peeling away. They reached a crumbling archway at the mountain's base, its stones etched with the same glowing symbols Mia had seen in the ruins. Lila pressed her palm against one, and a faint hum answered. The ground shifted, revealing a panel of flickering lights buried in the sand. "This is it," Lila said, kneeling to work. Her fingers danced over the controls, coaxing the ancient system to life. Mia kept watch, blaster ready. The Kren were closer now, their scanners sweeping the area. One turned, its visor glinting, and Mia ducked behind the arch. "Hurry," she hissed. Lila didn't look up. "Almost there. It's been dormant too long, it needs a spark." Mia smirked despite the tension. Story of my life. A loud click echoed, and the air crackled. From the sand, metal pillars rose, their tips glowing with energy. A web of light shot between them, forming a barrier that buzzed like a live wire. The nearest Kren froze, then shouted as the grid flared, sending a bolt of electricity into its armor. It staggered, smoke rising from its chest. "That's our cue," Mia said, tossing her smoke bomb toward the group. It exploded in a thick cloud, blinding the Kren as they roared in confusion. She grabbed Lila's arm, pulling her toward the mountain entrance, a dark tunnel carved into the rock. "Go!" They ran, the sounds of chaos behind them. The Kren fired blindly through the smoke, energy bolts sizzling past. One grazed Mia's shoulder, searing her jacket, but she gritted her teeth and kept moving. Inside the tunnel, the air was cold and damp, the walls pulsing with that same eerie glow. Lila stopped, catching her breath. "You're hurt," she said, reaching for Mia's arm. Mia shrugged it off. "Just a scratch. I've had worse." Lila's golden eyes softened, but she didn't push. "You humans are stubborn." Mia chuckled. "And proud of it. Now, where's this shard?" Lila pointed deeper into the tunnel. "Down there. They'll have it in a chamber, probably guarded." Mia nodded, reloading her blaster. "Then we sneak in, grab it, and get out before they figure out we're here." Lila raised an eyebrow. "You make it sound easy." Mia winked. "It never is." They crept through the tunnel, the vibrations growing stronger. The glow led them to a massive cavern, its ceiling lost in shadows. In the center stood a platform, and on it, the shard of eternity, a crystal the size of Mia's arm, radiating light that shifted from blue to gold. Around it paced 3 Kren, their leader towering over the others. He was bigger, his armor studded with trophies, bones and metal scraps. Mia dubbed him Core in her head. He looked like trouble. "That's him," Lila whispered, her voice tight. "The one who betrayed us. He's their warlord." Mia studied Core, noting the heavy cannon strapped to his back. "Big guy, bigger ego. We can use that." She scanned the cavern, spotting vents high on the walls and a pile of loose rocks near the platform. An idea clicked. "Lila, can you mess with their tech again, like back in the ruins?" Lila nodded. "If I get close, yes." Mia pointed to the vents. "I'll climb up there, drop some noise. You hit them when they're distracted." Lila hesitated, then squeezed Mia's hand. "Be careful." Mia squeezed back, a warmth spreading through her. "Always am." She scaled the wall, her fingers finding cracks in the stone. Years of scavenging had made her nimble, and she reached the vent without a sound. Below, Core barked orders, his voice booming. The shard pulsed faster, its light bending the air around it. Mia pulled an EMP grenade, set it to a low pulse, and dropped it through the vent. It clattered against the rocks, sparking faintly. The Kren spun toward the noise, weapons raised. Core snarled, stomping toward the pile. "Find it," he roared. That was Lila's signal. She darted from the shadows, her chant rising again. The Kren's weapons flickered, their visors glitching, and one collapsed, clutching its head. Core whirled, his cannon swinging toward her. Mia didn't wait. She leaped from the vent, landing hard on Core's back. He roared, thrashing, but she clung on, jamming her blaster against his armor and firing. The shot dented the metal, enough to make him stumble. Lila reached the platform, her hands glowing as she touched the shard. The crystal flared, and a wave of energy knocked the other Kren off their feet. Core threw Mia off, sending her crashing into the rocks. Pain shot through her ribs, but she rolled to her feet, gasping. "Lila, now," she shouted. Lila's eyes locked on the shard, her voice steady. "I can't take it yet, it's tied to him." She pointed at Core, who was advancing, his cannon glowing red. Mia cursed, grabbing her last EMP grenade. Then we slow him down. She hurled it at Core's feet, and the pulse fried his cannon circuits, leaving it smoking. He roared, tossing it aside and charging with bare hands. Mia dodged, barely, his claws raking the air where she'd been. Lila stepped forward, the shard's light flowing into her. Her skin glowed brighter, her white hair lifting as if caught in a wind. "You won't have it," she said, her voice echoing with power. She thrust her hands out, and a barrier of light slammed into Core, halting him mid-step. Mia scrambled to her side, panting. "Nice trick. Can you do that again?" Lila shook her head, sweat beading on her brow. "Not yet. It's draining me." Core pounded against the barrier, cracks forming in the light. Behind him, the other Kren stirred, regaining their senses. Mia's jaw tightened. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. But she'd never back down from a fight, not on Earth, not out here. She grabbed a jagged rock, her eyes meeting Lila's. "We're not done yet." "Together?" Lila nodded, her golden eyes fierce. "Together." The barrier flickered, and Core broke through, his roar shaking the cavern. Mia braced herself, ready for the storm. Whatever happened next, they'd face it as a team, and that was enough to keep her fighting. The cavern shook as Core charged, his massive frame smashing through Lila's fading barrier like it was glass. Mia gripped the jagged rock in her hand, her ribs aching from the earlier fall, but she didn't flinch. Beside her, Lila stood tall, the shard of eternity glowing brighter in her grasp. Its light pulsed wildly, reflecting the chaos around them. The two remaining Kren warriors flanked their warlord, their weapons sparking back to life. Mia's breath came fast, her mind spinning for a way out. They were cornered, Core's fury bearing down, the cavern walls trembling, and the shard's energy growing unstable. She glanced at Lila, whose golden eyes burned with determination despite the strain on her face. "Any ideas?" Mia shouted over the noise. Lila's voice was steady, even as her hands trembled around the crystal. "The shard, it's reacting to him. He's linked to it, but I can break that link. I just need time." Mia nodded, her lips curling into a grim smile. "Then I'll buy you some." Core roared, lunging at them with claws outstretched. Mia dove to the side, rolling across the stone floor as his fist cratered the ground where she'd stood. She sprang up, hurling the rock at his head. It bounced off his armor with a dull clang, but it got his attention. "Over here, big guy," she taunted, waving her arms. He snarled, turning from Lila to chase Mia instead. The Kren warriors moved to block Lila, but she thrust the shard forward, sending a pulse of light that staggered them. "Keep him busy," she called, kneeling to focus on the crystal. Its glow intensified, threads of energy weaving around her fingers like living threads. Mia darted around the cavern, ducking behind rocks and broken pillars as Core pursued her. He was fast for his size, his claws slashing through the air. One swipe caught her pack, ripping it open and spilling her tools across the floor. She cursed, spotting her last smoke bomb among the debris. Scooping it up, she lobbed it at Core's feet. It burst into a thick cloud, blinding him momentarily. She used the cover to scramble toward the platform, her eyes scanning for anything useful. The Kren's discarded cannon lay near the edge, its circuits fried but its frame intact. Mia grinned, an idea sparking. She dragged it behind a pillar, her hands moving fast as she pried open its casing with a shard of metal. Inside, the power core still hummed faintly. "Come on, you piece of junk," she muttered, rigging it with a wire from her torn pack. Core burst through the smoke, his red visor locked on her. "Human pest," he bellowed, charging again. Mia hefted the cannon, aiming its core at him. "Pest this," she said, and triggered the wire. The core overloaded, firing a jagged bolt of energy that slammed into Kor's chest. He stumbled, roaring in pain, his armor smoking. Behind him, Lila's chant rose, sharp and clear. The shard's light flared, and a shockwave rippled through the cavern, knocking the Kren warriors flat. Kor shook off the blast, his fury unshaken, but Mia saw the shift, his connection to the shard was weakening. "It's working!" Lila shouted, her voice strained. "But it's too much, it's going to overload." Mia sprinted to her side, dodging Kor's wild swings. The shard was vibrating now, its surface cracking as energy poured out. "Overload how?" she asked, breathless. Lila's eyes met hers, wide with urgency. "It could destroy everything, or open a rift we can't close. I need to redirect it." Kor loomed closer, his claws gleaming. Mia grabbed Lila's arm. "Then redirect it into him. He wants it so bad, let him have it." Lila hesitated, then nodded. "Hold him still, I'll channel it." Mia didn't have time to question how. She turned, facing Kor head-on, her blaster empty but her will unbroken. "Hey, ugly," she yelled, planting her feet. "You're not getting past me." Kor laughed, a guttural sound, and swung. Mia ducked, feeling the wind of his blow, then tackled his legs with all her strength. It wasn't enough to topple him, but it slowed him, his claws raking the air above her head. Lila raised the shard, her voice peaking in a final, resonant note. The crystal shattered in her hands, releasing a torrent of light that surged toward Kor. Mia rolled clear just as it hit him, a beam of raw energy that engulfed his form. He screamed, his armor melting, his body twisting as the shard's power consumed him from within. The Kren warriors froze, then fled, abandoning their warlord in terror. The light faded, leaving Kor a charred husk on the cavern floor. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of the shard's remnants, now scattered in glowing fragments. Mia pushed herself up, wincing at the pain in her ribs. "That's one way to end a party," she said, limping to Lila's side. Lila sank to her knees, exhausted, her blue skin pale. "It's done," she whispered. "He's gone." Mia knelt beside her, brushing a strand of white hair from her face. "You okay?" Lila nodded weakly. "Thanks to you. I couldn't have broken his hold alone." Mia smirked. "Team effort. Humans don't quit, and you're tougher than you look." She glanced at the shard's pieces, still pulsing faintly. "What about that? Is it dead?" Lila shook her head. "No. Its energy's free now, unbound. It could rebuild, or destroy. We decide." The cavern trembled again, cracks spreading along the walls. Mia frowned. "Decide fast, then. This place isn't holding." Lila reached for a fragment, her hand glowing as she touched it. "I can feel it, my people's dreams, their strength. It could bring them back, restore what was lost. Or we could destroy it, keep it from falling into hands like his." Mia sat back, her mind racing. She'd spent her life scavenging, surviving, never dreaming of something bigger. But with Lila, she'd found a spark, something worth fighting for. "Rebuilding sounds nice," she said. "But we'd need a plan. A good one." Lila smiled, a real one this time, tired but bright. "You're good at plans." Mia laughed, the sound echoing in the crumbling space. "Yeah, when they don't blow up in my face. What do you say, fix this mess together?" Lila took her hand, the warmth of her touch steadying them both. Together. The shard's fragments pulsed in rhythm with their words, as if agreeing. The ground shook harder, dust raining down, and Mia pulled Lila to her feet. "First, we get out. Then we figure out the rest." They ran for the tunnel, the cavern collapsing behind them. Outside, the desert stretched wide under Archon 7's twin suns, the Kren ship gone, its crew scattered. Mia's hoverbike waited, dented but intact. She climbed on, Lila behind her, and gunned the engine. The bike roared to life, carrying them away from the chaos. As they sped across the dunes, Mia felt the weight of what they'd done, and what lay ahead. The shard's power was theirs now, a chance to create something new. She didn't know where it would lead, but with Lila's strength and her own stubborn grit, they'd find a way. The horizon shimmered, full of promise, and Mia's heart raced with a mix of fear and hope. The story didn't end there, it couldn't. The universe was too big, the possibilities too vast. What would they build? Where would they go? Mia glanced back at Lila, her white hair whipping in the wind, and knew one thing for sure, they'd face it together, human and alien, a spark against the dark.